Hey, what's going on, everyone? This is Mitch. Good Thursday evening to you all. I hope you guys are doing great out there tonight. You had yourselves a wonderful day, and I hope everyone's been having a great week out there so far. We have many things to discuss in tonight's video. We're going to be breaking down this Arctic air mass that's going to settle into the central and eastern U.S., and with it, we're going to have winter storm chances. Now, we do have a winter storm that's pretty much right out in front of us. In fact, we have winter storm watches already up for areas of the Central Plains. So, of course, we're going to discuss that in great detail. But the first thing we'll talk about is the latest from the Climate Prediction Center. We'll show you some graphics from the experts in the National Weather Service. We'll break that down. And then we'll talk about guidance, model guidance that does support very cold air into the central and eastern U.S., Arctic air. And as we get over the next several days, it's going to be quite cold for a lot of people. So we'll speak on that. And then we'll get into that winter storm for areas of the plains, stretching to the Midwest, all the way into the Ohio Valley, all the way into the Mid-Atlantic. For some folks, this will be your biggest winter storm since maybe 2021, February. So this is not just going to be a straight rain or snow thing. You're going to have a corridor of nasty ice with this too. We're going to have an all-out ice storm for certain areas. So we're going to pinpoint these areas, speak on it, zoom into individual states. We'll try to mention some towns and city names and do all that for you folks. After we get done discussing that, that's when we'll start to dive further south, quite literally, and start speaking on the threat of winter weather next week that continues to increase as far as the risk of that each and every day. I really think we're going to get something out of this. And this risk is for Texas all the way into the Carolinas, and yes, it could trend even further north into the Mid-Atlantic. So we'll have a south central timestamp for that and a southeast timestamp up for that. There'll be timestamps up throughout the entire video. My videos are very long, but I promise you, if you just be patient or either you seek out those timestamps, you're probably going to find the information you're seeking. You just kind of have to maneuver through the timestamps in the video. So after we get done with all that, we'll nerd out with you guys and really explain what we need for winter weather in the South mid to late next week. If you guys have not subscribed, certainly consider doing that. Like the video if you like, and if anybody has anything that I can pray about or pray over, as always, please put it in the comments below. Let's start off by looking at the latest from the Climate Prediction Center. So this is the 6 to 10 day outlook. This was issued a few hours ago. This stretches from the 8th through the 12th of January. If you live in this purple shaded color, that's where we have an 80% chance of temperatures being below normal in this time period. This shade of blue, 70. This is 60. This is 50. This is 40. This is 33. So in this same time period, kind of freeze the image in your head, right? We go from the temperature to the precipitation outlook. Now, I know you're probably thinking immediately, well, this is going to be cold and dry. And there's a chance that it could be. But they are definitely leaning dry in this shade of brownish yellow, this kind of sand color. 33% chance of precipitation being below normal, which basically means they're leaning towards a drier situation in this time frame. 40% chance in this darker shade here of brownish, yellowish, sand color, whatever you want to call it. And then in this kind of muted out color gray, it's basically saying the 36% chance, and that's quite exact, of precipitation being near normal. They're basically saying that there's a chance of average precipitation in this time period. Now, this green color down here, 33% chance of precipitation being above normal, so leaning wetter. And then this darker shade of green, that's a 40% chance of that. So here's a closer look at it. So at first view, you would think, okay, cold and dry, right? Well, not necessarily, but let's keep going. 8 to 14 day outlook. All right. So this is stretching from, the 10th through the 16th of January. Folks, this is taking us clear out to mid-month now. Pretty crazy stuff, right? So they're saying in this purple area, there is an 80% chance of temperatures being below normal in this time frame. I want you guys to remember, January, the coldest month climate-wise of the year for anybody in the lower 48. So already your average low and high temperatures are at their lowest. So you say, hey, 10, 15 degrees below average, it's going to be quite cold. You go to this darker shade of blue, 70% chance of temperatures, 60, 50, 40, 33. And same thing, you kind of mix match this with the precipitation outlook in the same time frame. Not quite as dry. The center of the driest air kind of inches a little bit further south, but I could see this changing, guys. I could. And we'll get a new 3 to 4 week update that gets issued probably tomorrow. But leaning dry in this area, going more towards dry in that darker shade of color right there. And then this grayed out area, going for around average precipitation. And yes, this average precipitation could very well be winter weather. And we could get winter weather in this area where they're going for drier conditions also. Just keep that in mind. Don't immediately think No precipitation at all. All this cold air is going to go to waste. That's not what that means necessarily. Now, I'm going to pull up this graphic on the fly, and I totally forgot to have it up, so this is my fault. But we're not going to waste too much time doing this. They updated this, and if you tuned in this morning's video and last night's video, you saw me post. It's the risk of heavy snow. And this is running from the 10th to the 16th. So if you're watching this in Texas, you're thinking, well, man, they took away the risk of heavy snow. No. This is through the 10th and the 16th, and in my opinion, if you're going to get any winter weather in Texas, it'll be before this. Okay, so that's only what this means. I think this goes out to only an extended period of time. I had a lot of people bummed out in Texas because it took away the risk of heavy snow for you folks. I think it's just a time frame thing. But in this purple dashed area, so it's saying January 10th, which is pretty exact in my opinion, risk of heavy snow. In this area, risk of heavy snow. The 10th to the 14th, risk of heavy snow, and then up here, a risk of heavy snow. So, interesting stuff, right? Every time this graphic gets posted on social media, people go buck wild in the South. Just the thought of heavy snow in the South, excites a lot of people. Not everybody is a winter weather fan in the South. Hard to believe that you're not, but I understand that, winter weather can cause chaos, and some people don't like chaos when it comes to winter weather. But enough of all that. But this is the graphic from today, okay? So enough with the graphics from the Climate Prediction Center National Weather Service. Let's go on and move into how cold these temperatures could be compared to average. We're not quite close enough where we can say what the lows are going to be and the highs are going to be. But what I can tell you with this cold air mass is once upon a time, this looked very, very cold. I mean, record-breaking. And it could end up being record-breaking for individual areas, but as far as widespread historic cold Arctic outbreak, I don't think that's going to happen. Now, could you label this an Arctic outbreak? Absolutely. So let's start off for Saturday evening, January the 5th. So timestamps are going to be up here, okay? Jan 5, Jan 4, so January 4th or 5th. Below average temperatures are already in place in the eastern U.S. The greenish colors, that's 8 to 15 degrees below average. This purplish sort of white color up into here, this is getting upwards to 10, maybe 20 degrees below average, etc. Okay, we get this spike of warmth right here, and it kind of knocks away the below average temperatures for all of a day. And then Arctic air immediately begins to dive right back down to the southern plains. We're getting into the 6th, and this looks like almost like an Arctic front that surges across the south. And then cold air spills in behind this big system that we're about to break down. By the time we get into the morning of the 7th, this is very, very cold air. I'm talking about lows deep into the 20s, maybe even some upper teens, pretty far south. And we even got this area of even colder air because we're going to have snowpack across areas of the plains, Midwest, all the way to the Ohio Valley, all the way to the Mid-Atlantic. And you can actually see how the ensemble picks up on that. You see how it's colder compared to average in this area compared to up here and down here. I think it's picking up on that snowpack that'll likely be there. But you continue to go forward here, and this very cold air mass sticks around. I mean, so say if your average high temperature is 50 degrees somewhere in the south, then you could have highs in the low 40s to 30s. Nashville could have a few days where you barely get above freezing. So very, very cold air, and you continue to go here. This green, it's 10, 15 degrees below average. You start to get into this purple shaded color. Like I said, this is upwards to 15 to maybe 20 degrees below average temperature-wise. And this is very cold air. It hangs around, and it just continues to hang around. You think it's about to be done, and then the Euro ensemble today in the long range, really, really long range, like well past 10 to 15 days, drops another trough in the central U.S., and it looks like it just gets cold again. So that's an interesting development, okay? And if it does that, I will say that the Climate Prediction Center nailed it because they have it staying cold most of the month. Now, pretty wild stuff, guys. So that's the latest as far as temperatures. Like I said, we'll get a little bit closer, zooming in as far as your actual low and high temperatures per the National Weather Service when we're in range of the true core of the Arctic outbreak. Okay, now let's continue to move forward. Let's now begin to break down this winter storm. I want to start off by showing you guys there's winter storm watches up in this kind of bluish teal color. It almost looks like a muted color of gray here. These are winter storm watches. So if I and by the way, this site is phenomenal weather-wise. Definitely check it out. It's weatherwise app. They even have an app, and it's phenomenal, guys. It's free. It's great. Anyways, Dodge City, you got winter weather advisories. Once you start to get closer to like Wichita, Topeka, Kansas City, these are winter storm watches, and you can click on these graphics. I'm not going to do it for every area, but Columbia, winter storm watches. winter storm watches in St. Louis now. You have winter storm watches up in Indianapolis, Evansville. Winter storm watches now getting into Kentucky, Lexington. You have winter storm watches, Louisville, Cincinnati has not expanded much into Ohio yet. So I think that'll change over the next 12 to 24 hours. This winter weather advisory stuff that's going on right here, winter storm warnings, is from the first system that's going to swing in. Like, as you can tell, there's winter weather advisories right now in southern New Jersey, Philadelphia. It looks like Baltimore has a winter weather advisory, Dover. This is from that clipper that's going to swing through over the next 48 hours, which is what we're going to talk about that too. We have the lake effect snow warnings up here. But anyways, moving past this, let's go on and break this down. What we'll do first is we'll look at the central U.S. and we'll go to the eastern U.S. and then we'll start breaking down each individual area as far as how much snow like the National Weather Service is calling for and so what some of these models are showing. So we'll start off Saturday morning, right? So you're confused about time frames. SAT4 stands for Saturday morning, but just focus on the day really. And then there's another place to look at over here. So latest Euro, and we might actually have the 18Z Euro in. So let's see if we do. Let's see if it goes out far enough. And it does, so that's awesome. It goes out far enough. So we continue to move forward here. We're looking at the 12s. So this is 12Z Saturday morning. And here it comes. Here comes the winter weather breaking out. Freezing rain is in pink. If you see orange, that's sleet. Blue is snow. So we're getting light snow falling up here in the Dakotas, northern Nebraska. I'm telling you, this is going to be falling at a pretty high snowfall ratio because this is falling in very cold temperatures. So even though that looks like light snow up here in the northern plains, that's some high ratio snowfall. The pink is a freezing rain event ongoing across areas of Kansas now. Okay, the northern half of Kansas getting a wintry mix. You keep this going. It looks like it starts off as a wintry mix maybe in Kansas City, but it could be more snow or it could be more ice. It could be a mixture of both. But you keep this going, folks, and this just turns into a very nasty winter storm for Missouri and areas of Kansas, and then eventually getting into Indiana. How far north will the extent of the snow be? Will it make it all the way up to Des Moines or Chicago? This looks like mainly rain for southern Missouri, but you keep going. And, you switch to all heavy snow on the back end of this system if you do struggle with mixed precipitation in Kansas City. This is heavy snow. And look at St. Louis, for example. Start off as a blast of snow, and then, St. Louis right into here. Are you going to be more snow or more ice or kind of a half and half? Not sure, but look at the snow starting to move into Indiana. Snow starting to move out of Kansas, and we're starting to get into Sunday at this point. And I'm sorry, this whole entire system is going to be a big one. I mean, Sunday. Sunday will be the big day for these areas. And then as we're getting into Sunday night, into the overnight hours, this begins to progress eastward. Okay, so let's show the rest of the east here. All right, here it comes. Mostly rain for Tennessee and Arkansas. Cumberland Plateau, higher elevated regions could get some freezing rain. And we're actually going to switch this to the 18Z because we're in range now. 18Z, and not a whole lot's changed. Okay, axis of freezing rain and sleets right here, and then you're going to have a freezing rain, sleet, snow line. Where is that going to be? That's going to be huge. Indianapolis getting heavy snow at this point Sunday afternoon. Still snowing in central Illinois, but freezing rain for the southern portion of the state. Sunday evening, freezing rain falling for like Evansville. You're starting to get into all the towns in the northern half of Kentucky's all freezing rain just about. Looks like it starts off as snow even for like Charleston, West Virginia, and then you immediately go to a freezing mixture of precipitation. So at this point, the storm, it's still snowing back in Kansas and it's stretching all the way to the mid-Atlantic now. So snow begins to fall in the D.C., Baltimore area. It's snowing in northern VA. It's snowing in the northern half of West Virginia. Heavy snow axis is getting all the way up to Pittsburgh. How far north will this get, say, in Ohio? It's snowing almost to Cleveland, but Columbus, Dayton looks like you're getting some heavy snow. And I can tell you, a lot of times these storms like to be a little bit more amped up than what's forecast. So I would not be surprised if this trends a little closer to Chicago, Cleveland, even Detroit. I'm not saying that's out the possibility here, but you keep going here, and this is heavy snow. And the thing that I'm noticing here is you guys are, like DC, Baltimore, are very close to a mix. Typically, the closer you are to the wintry mix snow line, rain snow line, the heavier and the fatter the snowflakes are going to be, the more saturated the air mass is going to be. So I wouldn't be surprised if this is a heavy, wet snow in the Baltimore, D.C. area, Maryland, getting into Dover. And this continues with this low pressure riding over the spine of the Appalachian Mountains. You bet you're going to switch to rain, say in northeast Tennessee, if you're not already rain throughout the entire event, into the valley areas, lower elevated regions like Charleston, West Virginia. It is still hanging on to snow in DC, but that mix line starts to creep to you guys. And by the time you get later in the morning, Monday morning, hey, it starts to mix with a little bit of freezing rain and sleet. And I could see the mixed bag of precipitation creeping a little bit further north. But back here where you're mainly ice, you could switch to some back end snow in Kentucky. So kind of beautiful but dangerous storm is definitely going to be there. Now, how far north does the axis of snow get? Look at the snow trying to get into southern New England now. You're starting to get into some moderate snow in the DC and the Long Island area. How far north is this going to trend? If you look at the run compared to, say, 12Z, it's about the same, maybe a tick south. So a little nudge north. But, when the cold air catches up with it, you're going to go back all to snow in the Delmarva. And then you'll be left over with your biggest winter storm that you've seen in a few years, I think. Now, let's back it up west and let's start breaking down snowfall accumulation. So we are actually in range for the National Weather Service forecast for about half of the locations in this storm. So there's going to be a mean cutoff of snow in the Dakotas too. So if I have a few rare people tuning in from the Dakotas, the heaviest snow is going to be in far southwestern North Dakota and the central and western sections of South Dakota. And then check out the snow from Nebraska, a few inches. And then once you get closer to Omaha, really into Lincoln and to extreme southeastern Nebraska, over a half a foot of snow is possible. I'm not expecting much ice up here, but and I'm going to keep it just at the National Weather Service forecast in this because, this is what the experts are saying. I'm not going to compare a lot of model guidance where they're showing already in the National Weather Service forecast. Now, here we are for the storm for Kansas. Somebody in the comments said you didn't talk about Kansas, and I'm actually giving you guys extra love, and I'm zooming in specifically to Kansas. So here it is, northeastern sections of the state. It just depends on where you are. Topeka could get over a half a foot of snow. Kansas City going for around 10 inches of snow, folks, and it could still be snowing in this graphic. All right, so what about freezing rain? Guys, they're going for an ice storm. And, this is even underlapping, whatever you want to call it, some of the snow. But, they're going for 2 to 3 to almost 4 to over a half an inch of ice in these darker shades of pink in this corridor of ice right here. Now, I'm going to do what I always do. If you're a regular tuner, if you're somebody that tunes in regularly, you know that when we get a little bit closer, I'll start showing individual graphics from the National Weather Service, and this will start to show town and city names. So if you're wondering, man, you're not saying any town and city names. Well, I live in South Carolina. I don't pretend to know every single town and city name. I know kind of the household names in Kansas, Dodge City. You get what I'm saying. But when we get a little bit closer, we'll show some individual graphics. And trust me, if you're a new viewer, you'll really like this. We're going to keep it at this for now, but you can see where the worst ice is right into here. This is nasty stuff. Now, we start to move into the Midwest. This is the National Weather Service forecast. It is still snowing in this graphic. Okay, so I want to note, you see this snow up here? This is from the Clipper. That's going to move in, dump inch and a half, maybe as much as 2 inches in those areas you see up here. Here comes the National Weather Service. You see how it blossoms. It's not done snowing. So this is only between now and Sunday evening, and the storm is still going, and it's already snowed 8 to as much as 11 to 12 inches in northern sections of Missouri. Central Missouri, 4 to 6 inches, and the storm's not done. It looks like it's already dumped almost a half a foot of snow in St. Louis, and, already several inches of snow into Indiana, and it's still snowing. And you look at the freezing rain totals, and once again, this only goes out to Sunday evening, and it has a corridor of a quarter to over a half an inch of ice in central to south central Missouri. This is the National Weather Service forecast. Look at the ice, and this isn't done. The storm's not done at this point. And by the time we do tomorrow morning's video, we should be in range of the entire storm and just in this area. But look at this ice, guys. Evansville, over 0.3 of an inch of ice is forecast. If you live in southern Indiana, southern Illinois, the icing looks bad. Now, let's switch it back to snow, and let's look at the blend of all models and kind of compare it, right? Okay, a little bit. It's about the same. I mean, it's not as aggressive, for Missouri, but this kind of can take us out through the entire storm. You can see how the snow begins to increase in Indiana. Like Indianapolis going for 6 to 10 inches of snow, could be more, but you can see where the axis of the heaviest snow is, right? And then freezing rain accumulations. It favors what the National Weather Service is showing in this area. Now I can sit here and continue to fumble through model guidance here, but I honestly think. And heck, might as well show. I mean, we got time. This is the Euro model for this area, and in general, it shows the same areas, right? The same axis of snow, and then we look at the GFS in this area, and the GFS is probably just overdoing this. I mean, so it's not even worth showing. Going for 2 feet of snow, this storm is not going to produce 2 feet of snow. But y'all can come back here and let me have it if it does, but I'm just not seeing it. Same thing, folks, just moving like literally a tick. So like Indiana, Illinois, you're going to get double dipped in this a little bit. But same thing with the National Weather Service a little bit further east. It includes more of Ohio. You see this stripe of snow right here. This is for what's going to fall, and this does include lake effect snow in northeast Ohio. This is what's going to fall between now and, between now and about Saturday morning. I mean, even Charleston could get a little bit of snow, Charleston, West Virginia, and just a stripe of snow. But watch as, boom, the screen lights up right there. And this only goes out to Sunday evening. It is still snowing like crazy in Ohio, even Indiana, heck, maybe even like northern sections of Kentucky. So you already got a few inches of snow on the ground. Several inches of snow creeping in. Here's the freezing rain totals just through Sunday evening. You're already up to 1/10 to almost 2/10 of an inch of ice in areas of Kentucky. We've already talked about southern Indiana. They're even calling for some ice accumulations in some northern counties like north of Nashville and Tennessee. Going for 1/10 of an inch of ice, like right in this region right here. So interesting stuff. You can see the ice totals creeping up into the North Carolina, Virginia mountains. But once again, we'll kind of flip it back to the blend of all models, and we'll extend this further out throughout the length of this storm. And I think in this case, you could add a couple inches for certain people. But there's the bullseye over Indianapolis. This could really be your storm. You go down to Dayton, calling for 8 to 9 inches of snow. Cincinnati, I'm going to say a few to several inches of snow possible, guys. But Cincinnati's going to get at least a few inches of snow mixed with ice. It's even trying to show some snow down here in Tennessee, but I don't really buy that. But I mean, you can see the snow getting in most of West Virginia, and I'll show the other portion of West Virginia here in a second. But this is a hefty storm, and it's a pretty narrow corridor of accumulating winter weather precipitation, right? And this is the icing throughout the entire length of the storm, and it really wants to hit northern Kentucky with a lot of ice. And then I've already mentioned Missouri, Illinois, and Indiana, the southern sections of those states. But it does try to throw a few hundredths of an inch of ice further north too. And then of course we'll look at the European model, and we'll look at that, and this is how much snow the latest Euro is going for. And target's pretty much the same areas. It wants to throw more snow into, say, northern Kentucky. Like, for example, I mean, like getting down to, dadgum, always kind of brain fart. Yeah, that's Cincinnati. I'm not going to lie, I get Louisville and Cincinnati a little mixed up sometimes. Sometimes I think Cincinnati's down here. Sometimes I think Louisville's up here. So I kind of have to double check myself sometimes. So, anyways, so yeah, that would be a lot of snow for, say, Cincinnati. Going for over almost a foot in Euro, and I don't know if I buy that. But anyways, just comparing some model guidance, and then we'll show my fine folks here in the Mid-Atlantic. I want you to look at this. This is between now and Saturday midday. Notice you got this stripe of accumulating snow outside the higher elevations of the Allegheny Mountains and just the Appalachian Mountains here. You see this little thin slither of snow, 1 to 2 inches of snow, stretching from the southern counties of southeast PA, Maryland, the Delmarva, southern New Jersey. There's a couple inches of snow here before the main event. So you already will have a little bit of snow on the ground because of this aggressive clipper system. And then you move the actual main show in, and unfortunately we're not in range of the National Weather Service, so we are going to have to switch this to the blend of all models. And it picks up on that little area of snow very well, and then boom, here comes the main event that moves in right here. So some of this is a combination between both, but going for And some models show well over a half a foot of snow, 6 inches of snow for the DC, the Baltimore area. Is that going to happen? I would say I would aim towards the lower amount. I think the mixing line might try to get you, but the Delmarva, Delaware, Maryland, Tidewater, it might get even close to a couple inches of snow. In New Jersey, I've had a couple people in the comments say, man, New Jersey's going to get whiffed. I could say that you guys, especially the southern half of New Jersey, sit in a pretty good spot for this storm where you won't deal with mixing and you could just get an old-fashioned kind of small to moderate winter storm, snowstorm. But of course, the higher terrain of West Virginia, Western Maryland, getting into the Allegheny Mountains, getting into southwest PA, it's going to get hit with a lot of snow. Pittsburgh could get over a half a foot of snow, just a few inches up in central PA. But Pittsburgh could struggle with some mixing. So we just got to watch this. But icing in this situation, there's probably, and I'm going to move this a little bit further south, there's probably going to be an elevated area of icing in southwestern VA. And there's going to be sleet in this too. The sleet's a word that I haven't mentioned a lot, but there's going to be sleet. Models just do a terrible job trying to predict sleet accumulation. So that's why a lot of people don't show it. I don't show it because models struggle with it. But this is going to be mixing with some sleet. The freezing rain, snow in this area, southwest Virginia, is just going to get a nasty, probably mixture of winter weather. So over a tenth of an inch of ice in this pink area, and a little bit of ice will creep into areas of the higher terrain in North Carolina. And I go back up here and look at what the latest Euro is showing for the Mid-Atlantic. Hitting DC, Baltimore area hard once again with over a half a foot of snow. So it's not backing down at all. And it definitely keeps the axis of heaviest snow just south of New York City. But listen, I think some light snow is definitely going to at least creep into southern New England, this system. I think the extent of the northern shield of this precipitation is always going to be a little bit further north than what models say. So I would say watch out for that. Now the GFS, this is the latest one that just ran too, is a little bit further north. It brings some heavy snow into southeast PA. But on this area on the northeast side kind of keeps it still south, but brings almost a half a foot of snow into Delaware, southern New Jersey, just the Delmarva area. Good bit of snow in these areas. So prepare for a big winter storm in these areas, guys, because, this is going to be your biggest one that you've seen in quite some time. Now, let's talk about the threat of winter weather for the South. So what we're going to do first is we're going to show you guys the South Central U.S. first, go through various models, and then show how much winter weather some of these models are showing. Compare, contrast kind of deal, okay? Then we'll show you the Southeast and do the same exact thing. Timestamps up, jump ahead. If you don't want to hear about Texas and you want to hear about the Carolinas, switch it to that, vice versa. You get what I'm saying. Let's start off by showing you a GFS. And listen, man, this is going to be a tough one to figure out because GFS is throwing everybody a bone. But check this out. All right, so we start off Tuesday morning. Timestamps up here, January 7, January 7. So we got snow coming down the Rockies into the southern high plains. We got some light to moderate snow. This will be a pretty high snowfall ratio, pretty cold air. We're getting into Wednesday morning. So winter weather begins to break out across Texas in the form of snow in the blue, sleets on orange, and then freezing rains the pink. And then we continue to progress this into, say, Wednesday evening, the 8th of January. We got a moderate winter storm going on across North Texas, Western Texas, and then it develops into a very amped up system. So we move into Thursday morning, January the 9th, and all of a sudden we have a major winter storm breaking out across Texas. Models continue to like this idea. It's just, there's some tweaks that need to be figured out. And I really think as we get into tomorrow and Saturday, if you're tuning in from Texas, you're going to hear your local people start to talk about this more if models continue to show this. I really think over the next 48 hours, they'll start honking the horn at it. But the blue, that's snow. And then you got some sort of mixed bag of precipitation setting up in the central portion of the state. Here comes a lot of mixture of whatever. It's winter weather. I know that. Moving into northern Louisiana. And then we keep on going. And all of a sudden, this is looking more amped up and juiced. So we got snow getting all the way up into Oklahoma now. This is not hugging the Gulf Coast on the GFS anymore. So this is just a wintry, icy mix going across northern half of Louisiana, getting into Mississippi. This is mainly a snow event for Arkansas as we're getting into late Thursday into Friday morning. This is bringing snow all the way up into Memphis. So if you're thinking in the Mid-South, man, we were going to get screwed with this system. There's the potential you still don't get anything. But the GFS is giving you hope. And I'll show you that here in a second. And then we move past it. And who knows? There might be more energy that kind of drops down the pipeline and does something. Yeah, I mean, there's another system that tries to show up after 300 hours out. And I really think the system will continue to try to produce winter weather even after this one next week. But there's no point in getting super far ahead of ourselves here. Now let's look at the Euro. Is the Euro going to be kind of that buzzkill, right? If you're a winter weather fan, I would say a buzzkill. If not, then you would say, yay, Euro, right? But what is the Euro showing today? I actually want to switch it to the 18Z because the 18Z is a little bit in view now. So we are close enough to this that we're getting into the 18Z Euro, which only goes 144 hours out. So check this out. This is breaking out snow across the panhandle of Texas, New Mexico. We're starting to get snow dipping all the way down to the Gulf coastline. And this is the final frame. The final frame. The last thing we can look at here, it's got a lot of light snow across Texas, deep in Texas, San Antonio, Austin, Texas. But we got to switch it back to the 12Z now because it's as far out as the model run goes. And you can already tell it's a lot different, right? 12Z, the latest run, 18Z, there's already more moisture. So that seems like a trend. Okay, but let's finish off the Euro. It proceeds to delay the system. So instead of like Tuesday and Wednesday into Thursday, this is really starting Thursday night. And you don't have as much cold air around, and you're just getting a mix of rain and snow. This could be all snow. And it's a more amped up system, and it really finally gets going. But it's mainly, it's not a big winter storm. But if you just looked at the latest Euro, it's coming in a little bit different. But unfortunately, the short range Euro does not go out very far. So that's the European model. And if we keep going here, there's a big old rainstorm getting closer to mid-month. And yeah, so the Euro does not show much. It does show initially, some scattered light wintry weather. What about the Canadian? We'll kind of cruise through this a little bit faster. There's that snow across the panhandle of Texas and Oklahoma and in Colorado, New Mexico. There's so much cold air on this run, it delivers a winter storm for Houston and Corpus Christi almost all the way down to Brownsville. There's so much cold air, moisture is kind of shoved to the south, so we're getting into Wednesday the 8th. It wants to deliver a snowstorm for Houston, Texas. And then it delivers snow and winter weather for New Orleans. And then it delivers an all-out winter storm for the Bayou of Louisiana on the Canadian. So I'm telling you, there's something there. I'm not saying it's going to do that. But we have a winter weather event from Brownsville, Texas, going all the way to the panhandle of Florida. And this continues, and yeah, pretty wild stuff. All right, so what is the latest blend of all models showing? Okay, it's just showing a signal, I would say, for snow. I know you're thinking, man, you got a 9/10 of an inch of snow here, a half an inch of snow here, an inch of snow here. I don't know what this means. Well, it's blending all the model guidance together, so that's why it looks very weird. And you're thinking, wow, this doesn't support what I was just looking at. But we don't expect it to. Now, if you look at the ice signal for this, it's pretty much non-existent. So I'm going to show you some more models. Let's look at the Euro Ensemble. Okay, and we're going to kind of just maneuver through this as we go. Euro Ensemble here. Here it goes. Watch it pick up on the signal of snowfall down here. See how the ensemble guidance begins to perk up? It's picking up on that southerly winter weather for the southern plains. So you have over an inch to an inch and a half snowfall average between 50 different members off the EPS, the Euro Ensemble. So say if you got 25 members showing nothing, you got 20 members showing an inch or two of snow, and you got 5 members, if I did my math right, showing like a half a foot of snow. It blends it all together, creates a mean, creates an average number, and then this is what you get. So, that's what the Euro Ensemble is showing. Now, if you look at the GFS Ensemble, okay, it looks like it's increased. So this is the 18Z. You're getting an inch to an inch and a half snowfall mean down here. And listen, there's going to be ice with this too, but we can't really see ice in the Euro Ensemble, well, the ensemble guys for the most part, okay? But there is a signal right down here for certainly some snow, some winter weather, no doubt about it. And this only goes out 10 days, and there could be more rounds of it coming after this. So this is a hefty signal. And the GFS ensemble, I believe has 30 members. So if I jack that up, somebody correct me. I don't pretend like I'm perfect, but I believe it has 30 members. Same thing. Puts all these members together, these runs together, creates a median and average, and this is what you get. So yeah, I mean, that is a signal for winter weather pretty far south. There's no point. I've had a couple comments saying, Mitch, show us the operational run totals. There's no point. And guys, if you really want to see it, it's available to the public. Half of what I show you on these runs, guys, except off WeatherBell, is available to the public. Keep that in mind, guys. Keep that in mind. But I could definitely look at this and say, hey, there's a signal for winter weather for the Southern Plains. That's a solid signal. In fact, if you compare the 18Z, folks, with the 12Z, look how much that improved. That's 12Z, that's 18Z. That's a huge increase from a past to a present run. Huge increase. All right, let's break down the Southeast. I know this is where I got most of my viewers. Let's do it. All right, Thursday morning, January the 9th. This is when the time frame of interest of the Southeast begins. So here we go. This is the latest GFS winter storm breaking out across Arkansas. You got a winter weather event. I wouldn't call it a winter storm starting to move across Tennessee. And the look is totally different on the latest GFS. It looks like a cold air damming setup for the Carolinas and Georgia. So we got winter weather all the way up into Nashville. Heck, it's all the way up into Kentucky. We got snow into Huntsville. And then we continue to go get this going, and we got snow starting to move into South Carolina, and then we get this nasty wintry mix that begins to break out across Georgia, South Carolina. The pink is freezing rain, so this is getting in the Friday afternoon. It's a freezing rain mix, not a forecast. Good gracious, guys, not a forecast at all. I'm just going over model guidance, and we've been doing this for days now, trying to sniff out this winter storm signal that continues to increase. And all of a sudden, we move it into late next Friday night, and we have an ice storm developing from Huntsville to Atlanta to Columbia, all the way to Florence, all the way to southeast North Carolina with heavy snow on the northern side. Long duration ice, and all of a sudden it turns into a winter storm for Virginia. That is a massive difference in modeling. The GFS all of a sudden has a more amped system, and it brings heavy snow all the way up into Virginia. Southern Virginia has not seen a big winter storm in a while either, a few years. And then it moves on out. Do we have anything else that follows after that? Might as well keep it going. And there's a little clipper. And then look at the 300-hour range. Look, here comes another system. This wants to bring snow across the deep south and the southeast again. So I don't think the pattern's done. I don't think the pattern's done after this system. I don't. What about the Euro? What does the Euro show? Well, the 18Z Euro does not go out to this time frame. But we keep this going here, and here's the system. It comes later. So Friday morning, here it comes, breaking out some light snow across northern Alabama. We're getting into Saturday morning. It's starting to get squashed, and it is a miss for the most part. And then it moves away. Okay, what about the Canadian model? Here it comes. Canadian's doing just that crazy stuff, and it's delivering a snowstorm from the Texas coastline all the way into the panhandle of Florida, all the way into North Florida, all the way into extreme southern Georgia. I mean, it's just a ridiculous model run that puts a swath of accumulating snow along the Gulf coastline. And listen, guys, this is not me saying, hey, that's impossible to happen in this pattern, but it's a pretty wild scenario that I'm definitely not buying. The Euro AI model is the latest one that we have, and it shows a winter storm. See that blue line? That's the 0 degrees Celsius line. So it's the freezing line in the upper levels of the atmosphere, about 4,000 to 6,000 feet up. So I would say, and I'll say this, the Euro AI model only shows precipitation. It doesn't show if it's snow or freezing rain or sleet. But I would make a sure bet that anybody north of this 0 degree line is probably snow, and probably a little bit south of it too. So this would bring a moderate winter storm into Atlanta, Columbia, and then even a winter storm for like the Eastern Carolinas. If this reflected in color, a lot of this would be snow. So the Euro AI model was a hit too, and that's the latest one. So, I'll look at the blend of all models, and folks, it's going to be a buzzkill. It's not going to show anything great. Okay, it only shows like a trace of snow to a few tenths of an inch of snow, and even if you look at the ice, it shows hardly nothing. But this just blends model data together. If we look at the latest Euro, let's go on and look at the GFS ensemble. That is a massive increase, guys. And this is new to me. I'm looking at this new. Okay? Look how it increases along the deep south and then it spikes right through the Carolinas. It's probably the biggest increase on the GFS ensemble that we've seen in about 24 to 48 hours. And that goes right through the heart of the South. I mean, heck, my neck of the woods almost has an inch snowfall mean. Okay, so that is a solid signal. And you can break it down. You can break it down in kind of 4-day periods. And you can see how the signal spikes for the deep south and the southeast down here. Okay, now what about the Euro ensemble? Switch it to the 12Z. See what it looks like. It was an increase. It was an increase. And I will tell you that GFS ensemble run I just showed you. And let's go back to that really quick. I do want to compare this. And it's still increasing back here. We're starting to get a 2-inch snowfall mean north of Houston. So this run isn't done. And it's only going out to the 13th. It could go out much further than this. About 384 hours out. So this run ain't even done. But if you compare this with a 12Z, huge increase. That's the 06Z. So 12Z, current run, big increase. Big increase here. So what about the Euro ensemble? I'll go back to that. And here it is, 12Z. And yeah, I mean, it's not a heavy signal, but if we continue to trend the direction we're trending, I expect this to spike overnight. By the time we do the morning video, I would expect a heavier Euro ensemble mean, but you can see how there's a signal for some snow for the south. And I know it doesn't look like a lot, guys. I get it. But we are still trying to figure this one out. So to kind of nerd out with you guys a little bit, let's talk about energy. Okay? So what you're seeing here, these slashes of greenish, yellowish colors, is energy in the upper levels of the atmosphere. Now, this is kind of a smoothed out look because we're looking at an ensemble and not an operational run. So what you got going on here, I'm going to draw on this a little bit, is you got this dip in the jet stream coming down. And we got plenty of northern stream energy diving down in the form of this kind of coloring, okay? So we're not missing on the northern stream energy. There's pieces of energy flying down everywhere. There's a piece of energy that kind of comes down here and gets jammed up down here. And you can see it. You can see it right here. It's kind of jammed up down here. And it kind of just gets stuck in the southwest. So we got an active stream of energy right here. We need this to unleash and create some sort of phasing. And then all of a sudden we get a bigger winter storm and even an opportunity for the mid-Atlantic and the Northeast. But the smoothed out look on the Euro ensemble really has a lot of these members getting kind of hanging this energy back and not ejecting it into the main flow of things. So it's not pulling this way, and we just get a lot of energy kind of coming down the ridge. If you can get that to eject into the main flow, then we have an opportunity to connect, and you got an opportunity to get a winter storm in this area, maybe even up into Tennessee. Okay? But, you know, we still got to figure that one out. And the reason that we're struggling to kind of get this energy out of here is if you look on the Euro ensemble, you see this, and I will tell you the ridge looks better. But if you kind of back this up here, and let's actually look at the operational run. If you see what happens here, you see how this ridge is kind of tilting this way? We need this to tilt up into Alaska. So if you get rid of this weird extension of the ridge right here, and you kind of just position this straight up, then this allows this to kind of dig right into here and kind of go like this. Instead, the energy kind of comes down and kind of does this around the ridge and sort of gets hung up in the southwest. Now, there's a chance that the majority of the energy can get hung up in the southwest, and you get kind of a dislodgement of a piece of the energy from this main energy that kind of goes right here. There's also an opportunity that you have such an amped up northern stream energy that the northern stream energy can dive down fast enough and then just kind of do its own thing, become a dominant northern stream storm and kind of create a late bloomer situation. But I would almost want to say that we're trending away from that, and we're trending towards us getting a little bit more work from this energy right here, which would create a bigger storm potential. So you look at the latest Euro, and it actually has trended towards more energy, a higher chance, I would say. And we saw that reflected when we compared the 12Z with the 18Z Euro when we were showing the South Central frame. So that's all I got, guys. I would say right now, and I'm gonna try to say this at the end of every video. Which way are we trending right now? I would say we're trending better for winter weather. This morning, I would say we were neutral to trending a little back. This evening, we're trending better. So I'm going to try to end each video saying that, kind of a trending meter, if you will. So that's all I got, guys. Thank y'all for tuning in. Appreciate y'all working through the video. Thank you for the amazing support. It's been awesome. With the growth, we're going to get a lot of comments, and some of the comments are going to be negative. Some people are going to, get very irritated because one run 12 hours ago showed snow at their house and now this one doesn't. So they're just going to go full send in the comments and say, it never snows in my house. It never does this. We're always disappointed. My life is awful. This, that, and the other. Folks, at the end of the day, it's the weather. And this is coming from a guy that's extremely passionate about this. I mean, I wouldn't be talking for almost 50 minutes straight now about it if I didn't love it. So this is coming from someone who's passionate about the weather. At the end of the day, it's really not that serious. It's the weather. You cannot control it. I'm here to talk about it. So my advice to you guys, and maybe some people's like, dude, I don't want to hear advice from some kid or some 33-year-old, is when you look at these model runs, and that's why I say a million times, not a forecast, do not get emotionally full send into what you're seeing. So, for example, I just showed you an ice storm in central South Carolina and the Carolinas. Don't go tell everybody and your dog and your hamster and your rabbit that there's going to be an ice storm next weekend. That's not the way you do it. And believe it or not, if you're thinking nobody does that, a lot of people do that. A lot of people do it. People at my job do it. I have people at my job come to me and be like, hey man, so we're getting snow next week. And I'm like, bro, you're my friend, man. You didn't watch my video? He's like, man, yeah. So just remember that, guys. That's why we're here going over the information over and over again and trying to explain it. There's more to it than a question. Like, is Billy Bobtown, Alabama going to get an inch of snow? Is my house going to get in the snow? You're talking too much. Just tell me what's going to happen. Just listen to the video. Let's work our way through this. Let's work together. Let's have some faith, and let's just try to pull in an awesome winter storm for the South and Southeast. God bless all y'all. Have a wonderful night, and I'll talk to you again in the morning.